is. And there's also a dead ghoul here, a Bright follower, which is from the cult of Jason Bright in the quest Come Fly With Me. That episode was over 206 episodes ago, my very first episode of the Unexplored Mojave, and I mentioned Jason Bright and his cult, which is located at the REPCONN Test Site. However, I've never explored that area, mainly because it serves kind of as a tutorial for many players. Now, while you can skip it, especially for first-time players, almost all of them will make their way there, kind of just the natural progression of the story. But without further ado, let's go ahead and check it out and see if there's any hidden secrets or interesting places around the area that we can find. So welcome to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're looking at the REPCONN Test Site. Now, before even going to the REPCONN Test Site, we can find signs of trouble at the facility in Novac. Novac is just below the site. If we talk to Manny Vargas, he will offer to give us information about Benny, who we're chasing at this point in the story, and in return, he wants us to go get rid of the ghouls at REPCONN Test Site. He also explains to us that the people of Novac use the test site for scavenging, so they can find materials and parts in order to sell to merchants across the Mojave Wasteland. So it's also important for their economy. So of course, being the good Samaritan that we are, we decide to help out Manny Vargas. Now also, if we head over to this shack on the edge of town, and we talk to its owner, Dusty McBride, he will tell us that his Brahmin business is going poorly, because someone is killing his Brahmin in a very violent manner. And we can offer to help him. It always happens at midnight. So if you wait to midnight, usually you will find a crazed nightkin who will kill the Brahmin. But for whatever reason, or some kind of glitch, this Brahmin decided to spawn at noon instead of midnight. Don't know why that is. I've never seen that happen before. But here it is. Obviously some kind of weird glitch. But we can kill the nightkin, and on his dead body we can find the screams of Brahmin, where he talks about how the Brahmin are driving him crazy. So those are our signs of trouble at REPCONN Test Site. Now as we make our way up to REPCONN Test Site, we will find numerous feral ghouls, some of them dead, also a dead mole rat. There's also a billboard for REPCONN itself. And as we approach REPCONN, we will find this old tunnel, and on the other side of the tunnel is where the REPCONN Test Site actually is. We have this small encampment on the road, and we get to loot around. On this table, I've always found this very amusing. I remember that I found this a long time ago, but we have what appears to be a chessboard with some caps on the board. So it appears that whoever was here before was using the caps as checkers. There's also a garden gnome here that also appears to be partaking in the game. Then there's some ammunition crates and mine boxes that contain various random loot. After that, if we keep going up this road, we will eventually see the very large REPCONN Test Site. The main building is directly to our right, and then there is the launch facility for the rockets. And here's the location, just in case you need it, although I highly doubt you do, but it's just west of Novac and north of Prim Pass. And while Novac, as we have mentioned many times in this series, is not based on any real-world place, REPCONN actually is. REPCONN is based on the real-world Pacific Engineering and Production Company of Nevada chemical plant located in Henderson, Nevada. However, PEPCON, which is its nickname, was destroyed in 1988 following a large explosion at the plant. On May 4th, 1988, a fire broke out at the plant, causing a very large explosion which killed 2 people and injured 372 other people, resulting in $100 million worth of damage, or today about $225 million worth of damage, and it contaminated everywhere within a 10-mile radius. Now, PEPCON did have a connection to rockets, like REPCONN does in New Vegas. It was only one of 2 producers of ammonium perchlorate, which is an oxidizer used in solid propellant rockets, such as the Space Shuttle boosters and Patriot missiles. But enough about that, let's jump into the game, and as we found out earlier, there are a lot of ghouls inhabiting this area. I attacked from above, which gave me a pretty good vantage point, and one of these grenades detonated this car down here, causing a huge explosion, and a piece of debris actually flew up on this cliffside, which I thought was pretty funny. That car was very angry at me as well. But this eastern area of the facility is pretty interesting. There's a large cliff, and there's a lot of area that you can actually explore over here, and there's a collapsed electrical tower which put a hole in the wall, allowing us to access this interesting facility. Looks like it would be used to store chemicals or maybe rocket fuel. Who knows, but there's obviously a purpose for it, for this research facility. Now, as we make our way up, we will find that there are more feral ghouls just outside of the entrance. Now, you can actually walk around the entire facility, which we will see later, but there's really not a whole lot of interest. And also, if you guys didn't notice, I'm doing this on a different account, so I had to use a recharger rifle for much of this playthrough. Now, my initial impression of the recharger rifle was it wasn't very good, but I found out it's actually a lot better than I ever gave it credit for, at least especially against these lower level enemies. It has infinite ammo because it quote-unquote recharges, but you only get about 7 shots before it has to recharge, and the recharging is a bit slow, but as long as you're not fighting a huge horde of enemies, you'll be fine. Now, do loot around this little front entrance, this little encampment, because we can find a dead bright follower with random weapons and ammo, and some ammunition crates. If we head over to the western side, we will find a radioactive pond. Perhaps it was used for waste disposal back in the pre-war era. And over here there is a sewer, or not really a sewer, but this leads us to the tunnels below, the REPCONN basement, which we will need later for the quest, Come Fly With Me. And if we come over here to the northwest side, we will find another kind of collapsed tunnel, and we can walk on up here. Who knows where this tunnel would have gone a long time ago? Maybe another access point for the facility, or perhaps just for delivery of goods to the facility, like a garage or something. There is a side entrance, which I didn't really know about, to be honest, and if we go in through, we will get this raspy voice on the intercom telling us to come to the top part of the facility because he wants to talk to us because he thinks we can help them. We will agree and make our way up there. But for the time being, we will explore the main office area of the REPCONN Test Site. In this room, we can kind of find what appears to be a break room. There is a billiards table, along with a Nuka-Cola vending machine. As we progress further, we will find some ghouls. Thankfully, these ghouls were very low level, just like the character I was using for this recording, so it wasn't too big of an issue. However, these ghouls are leveled, so if you come here as a higher level, you will have a more difficult fight on your hands. Then we can make our way to the entrance, and I found an interesting thing here where the raspy voice on the intercom will talk to us and ask if we are lost. Obviously, this is probably supposed to be if you go to the western part from the entrance, but it works in reverse as well. Just some cool dialogue that I never knew existed within the game. After that, we'll head on up to the second floor. Now, it is worth mentioning, as you walk around, you will find these dead bright followers along with dead nightkin, indicating that there was some kind of fight between these ghouls and the nightkin at some point in time, and obviously the bodies appear to be pretty fresh at this point. As we make our way around, we will eventually come to a locked door. Inside this room, there is a first aid kit, so definitely make sure you pick that up. But the locked door is easy, and I don't have 25 lockpick on this account. But I'm almost leveled up at this point in time, so we will come back to that locked door later. There are 2 easy locked doors on the second floor, and we'll open both of them later. After that, just continue to make your way through the waves of ghouls. Again, pretty easy. Obviously, it can't be too difficult since it is kind of intended for the player to go here early in the game. Now, there are some terminals around, but for the most part, they just have some business information about what was going on at the test site. Obviously, they were testing rockets. Now, there is a funny email about the lunchroom and how employees are making a mess in it, and they threaten to remove it because the lunch area is a privilege, not a right. Now, there is a third floor, which I'll be honest, I completely forgot about, and we can find the administrative room. Inside, we can find an average lock safe, which of course I have no hope of opening on my lower character, but on my main character here, I can open it rather easily. Inside, there's some random loot and 2 stealth boys. So if you can open it, that's pretty good. Stealth boys are quite rare within New Vegas, so it's definitely pretty valuable. Also, on this terminal, we can get the storage room terminal entry, which will have the code for the safe within the storage room. There you can see the password at the bottom. Obviously, you don't need to remember it, though, but it is there. Now, also worth pointing out, in this room, there are several photos or picture frames with pictures in them from Fallout 3. Don't know, obviously, whose office this is, but they appear to be a fan of Fallout 3. And on the other wall, we can find a picture of Tenpenny Tower. The other photos appear to be in maybe Vault 112 or something, or the characters there. Not entirely sure. If you do know for yourself, please post them in the comments section below. Also, on the third floor, we can find a kind of barracks. Not sure why it was here, but maybe the US military stationed soldiers here, which would make sense because obviously the things being tested here would have been of great interest to the US military. And as we continue our way through the offices, we can now open those two locked doors that we mentioned earlier because I did level up, as you can see. And inside this room, we have the safe. We can open this up. Now, the main thing is there is a hunting revolver next to the skeleton and some ammunition on the safe. Now, you do want to open up the safe, though, because we can find 2 more stealth boys inside, which is really good. Obviously, we always want those stealth boys, especially if you're a lower level or you want to complete a difficult quest. They can be of great use to you. Then, in the northwest corner of the building, we can find another locked door on the second floor. Not much inside of this room besides a first aid box with 2 stim packs. After that, we head over to the maintenance area, maybe, and we go to the top floor, and we can meet the Bright Brotherhood. And here is Jason Bright, its leader. Now, the Bright Brotherhood is a group of friendly ghouls who have formed a kind of religious cult. They want to escape the persecution and kind of the speciesism, maybe is the right word, that they face in the Mojave, or just on Earth in general. They want to go to space, and they plan to use the rockets in the facility. However, there are Nightkin in the basement who are not too fond of those ghouls. If we go talk to Davison, the leader of the Nightkin, we can learn that the Nightkin are actually searching for stealth boys. Now, if you pick up Antler, which is this skull here, which is actually the real leader of the Nightkin, even though this is kind of schizophrenic, Davidson will attack you. Just so you know, I never knew that before, and I thought it was a really cool addition. Now, Davidson will agree to leave the facility if he can get his stealth boys. The only problem is there is a ghoul named Harland who is guarding the stealth boys, and he's an expert shot. Now, I tried to complete this without killing anyone because I wanted the best possible ending. However, in order to access the jail cell, which you have to do to get Harland out of there peacefully, you have to kill the Nightkin jailer. You cannot pickpocket the key off of him. Now, the reason you need that key and the reason you need to open the jail is because Harland's dead, not really girlfriend, but crush is in there. He was hoping she was alive, but yeah, obviously now she is dead. And after that, Harland will be very sad, but he will leave. Now, after that, we can look in this room. We can look at the terminal in the upper part of this storage area. And we will quickly learn that there are no stealth boys. So it was a wrong shipment. However, if we go up here where Harlan was, we can pick up some of his ammunition, which is pretty good if you're a low level. But do be careful, there are a lot of traps in here, including a booby-trapped terminal on the first level. We can see the shipment invoice, which is what we need to read. And they talk about these wild stealth boys that got shipped there. However, they sent them back because they were not supposed to go to REPCONN. And then if we tell Davison, he thinks initially that we are lying. However, Antler will save our asses. So maybe Antler is a real person. Who knows? Anyways, Antler is fucking awesome, I think. I love these interactions with these characters. However, I'm sure all of you are very familiar with this quest. That's why I went through it so fast. But I think this is a very cool collection of characters within this quest. No one here is truly evil. Everyone has different goals and different reasons for being here. And everyone, it kind of means well. There's just some communication issues between different factions. And after this, we can head on down to the basement of the REPCONN Test Site, which is just kind of these tunnels. There's really not much of interest down here. There is like this footlocker in this radioactive room that had some ammunition. There's also these tools like milling machines and a workbench, but really not a whole lot of interest. And then we can find Jason Bright along with the rockets. And basically he wants us to launch these rockets. Who knows where they're going, if they'll ever come back, if they'll just fly into the frickin' sun. Who knows? Who cares? Either way, we'll complete the quest and be done with it. But first, we have to gather 2 components for the rockets. The first one we're going to get is the ignition fluid that we need, the igniter fluid, and this is by Clark Field. Talked about this location previously before. We have to go over here to Mr. Radical, and then we can find the igniting agent on his dead body. The other thing we need are the thrust control modules, which are sold by Old Lady Gibson at the Gibson Scrapyard. Now, she will charge you a pretty penny for these things, 500 caps. If you have 50 speech or 50 barter, you can negotiate with her to get it lower. Or alternatively, if you have 50 lockpick, you can actually just steal the thrust modules from this metal box in her shop. Obviously, that's the evil karma option, but also Old Lady Gibson might have some really dark secrets. So maybe it's not really that evil to do. Either way, I didn't have any of these options at my disposal, so I paid 500 caps for the parts. Also, if you never noticed, Old Lady Gibson's chair is the O from the REPCONN sign outside the test facility, so interesting little fact. After that, we gave him back to Chris, and Chris is finished. Him and I, our job is done. Our last job now is to simply launch the rockets. Now, if you are evil or you have high enough science, you can actually recalibrate the rockets. And you can actually make them crash into each other, and then that causes like radiation to seep or leak into Novac. Anyways, really evil, really bad karma ending, but I just want to mention it is possible. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure it was good. Also, I don't have the science to do that. So anyways, we decided to launch the rockets properly, and then they take off. Now, this rocket on the right struggles a bit, but yeah, it's okay. And then the Bright Brotherhood, Jason Bright and his gang, is out of the facility. The Nightkin are out of the facility, and the good residents of Novac are very happy. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave, and I do hope you learned something about REPCONN Test Site. I know this location is a major location for players to visit. Most players will have completed Come Fly With Me. I think it's probably one of the most iconic quests within New Vegas, but I just wanted to complete it for completion's sake, and try to offer some new information or just some different areas that many players might not see. If you guys have any future ideas or future recommendations, please post them in the comments section below. Love making these videos, and I'll continue to do so. When I was making this, I realized I mentioned Jason Bright in my first ever video for the Unexplored Mojave. I just can't believe it's been over 200 videos now and running in this series. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Thank you guys so much for watching all of these videos, and until next time.